Okay, so the next aspect of delivery that your textbook gets into, that the authors of our textbook, Koopman and Lowell, talk about, is managing your audience. And this is, thinking about the space that you're speaking in, right? Usually it helps to get there early, or to have some knowledge of where you're going to be addressing the audience. And you might have to adjust the speaking space, meaning, maybe there's a big gap between you and the chairs, and you can ask people to move up, right? Or you get closer to where the audience is sitting, right? And so it might help to get closer to your audience at certain times, right? Rather than, like in a big auditorium, you wouldn't want to hiding behind a podium, quote unquote, hiding, and then the audience is far away from you. It wouldn't make sense. So you would get closer to your audience, ask your audience to get closer. And so if you have to do that, be prepared. Be prepared to do that. Also, involve the audience. Yeah. So, especially with like an attention getter, asking an audience a question or a rhetorical question, or uh, you can even, plant an audience member to have a little interaction with you, but it helps to involve the audience in some way, right? To get them to answer or respond, even with a rhetorical question, right? Can get your audience involved. You want to be respectful of your audience's time. That's huge, right? So if you're asked to keep your remarks under 5 minutes, you want to keep the remarks under 5 minutes, right? And you don't want to go on and on and on if they're asking you to keep your speech concise, right? There's that old saying in public speaking where the speaker gets up and says, "Excuse me for preparing a long speech, but I didn't have time to prepare a short speech," right? And so it can actually, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to be short on the preparation side, but making sure that you respect the audience's time, right? That you're not droning on and on and on if the time allotted doesn't allow for that, right? And then accommodate audience members with impairments. Yes, definitely, right? Audio, visual. If you need a sign language interpreter, to make sure that you have that set up, right? And that you're accommodating to all your audience's needs is absolutely crucial, right? In this day and age. And then in terms of responding to sort of like a hostile audience, which could happen, right? So maybe an audience doesn't, agree with you from what you've articulated, right? You want to respond calmly to rude and hostile questions, right? You wouldn't want to like, make any negative emotions even more negative, right? You would take the high road and respond calmly, and in the name of civility, right? Especially like, although we disagree, let's remember to be calm and to hear each other out, right? And that'll also give you a kind of ethos too, because the audience will notice how you're holding yourself, and that gives you a kind of credibility too, because you're holding yourself in high regard, right? And you also want to prepare for the question and answer period. We won't be doing question and answer period, but if you are addressing an audience, it really helps to anticipate what the audience is going to ask you, right? And that you're able to navigate that question and answer period. And this would be impromptu mostly, but that being said, you can still be, kind of prepared for what you might expect once you finish your speech and you interact with the audience. So definitely. And then in terms of question and answer periods, right? Making sure to listen carefully to each question. Absolutely, yeah. So it might help to actually paraphrase what a question or someone in the audience might have asked you. So it sounds like you're asking me this, if you need to clarify, right? But listen carefully to what your audience is asking you. Allow time, yes. So allow for that question and answer period, especially not in the classroom, but other types of public speaking where your audience will have questions, right? A training or a conference, something like that. Also, repeat questions, yes, especially if you're in a room and you're holding the mic, right? You say, okay, the question was, you know, what was my first job, right? But anyway, yeah. So you repeat those questions so the audience can hear you, right? Answer completely, yeah. So give them all the information, and answer as completely as you can. And if you don't know the answer to a question, it's fine to say, and I'll follow up with you. I can get you more information about that, or I'll actually let me look that up and get back to you, right? Are all fine answers to questions. But you want to listen to hear your audience out and answer completely.